Good evening out there in the cyberspace. Welcome to the FITT Show, financial information for today and tomorrow. I'm Bobby P. Kinzer.
And I'm Thomas Doty.
And yes, we are the FITT Show, helping our people get their finances in shape. I'd like to welcome everybody from around the world. Yes, we reach in all parts of the universe, England, Scotland, Australia, Amsterdam, and all places thereof in the United States. We thank everybody for tuning in. Today is June the 1st, 2023, and this is the FITT Show. So thank you. How you doing today, Dope?
Man, I got one more day to babysit the grandkids, and my kids come back tomorrow, so I'll be happy.
How many days have you been babysitting?
They've been in Europe for 12 days.
And you've been a granddad for 12 days?
Ready for them to be back, yeah.
Yeah, but you love it, don't you? I know you do. So look, I want to remind everybody to please make sure that you click on the like button as many times. It doesn't matter how many times, the more the better. And the like button and the heart button. And please put comments in the box because we get even more traction if you put comments, if you use comments. So we like comments. And plus, we like to use the comment box as an interactive. That's the way that we can engage with you all. So if y'all have some comments or views, opinions, on things we're talking about, put them in the comment box. So if you want to ask us a question, put it in the comment box and we will respond to that. Really ready to have a great show. Last week's show was protecting your smartphone, and we talked about tipflation. Got a lot of comments about that show, Dope, because a lot of people didn't know how much they were exposing themselves and their financial information on their smartphones. And what I like to always say, and I'm not saying this to everybody, but that's amazing because some people don't need a smartphone. So anyway, it ain't too smart. So, Dope, let's talk about the wonderful stock market that we always like to start at the top of the show, one of our favorite topics. And we get most people always commenting about, why are we giving this bad news?
Well, I mean, the market has been doing pretty well. A lot of good news has come out, and it's still crazy volatile. So, we always say we don't get overexcited when it goes up or get too down when it goes down. But it's kind of on an upswing now. It looks like they're going to settle the debt limit situation. It's passed the House. Now it's just got to go to the Senate. And the Fed has hinted that they may not raise rates.
That's good.
Next go round. But none of that definite, and it could all change tomorrow. So the Dow for the past week is up slightly, about 1%. NASDAQ has been on a roll. And it's a few stocks that are doing really well. I mean, for the week, the NASDAQ's up 3%. Microsoft, it's been going crazy this year, and it's almost at its 52-week high. It's about almost 4 points short of its 52-week highs. It's up 7 points for the week, or 2%. Tesla, and Tesla's just a crazy stock, period. It just this year, it's been like between 100 and 200. And so it's extremely volatile. If anybody could figure out when to buy and sell this stock, it could get crazy rich. But for the week, it's up 13% or 24 points. Apple is about to hit its all-time high, which I think is about 182. So I'm not talking 52-week high. I'm talking their all-time high. So Apple's been going pretty good. And Pfizer's just flat, just hanging in, not much going on there. But as we always say, this is the time to just kind of sit and watch things. Don't overreact. It's easy to want to sell when it goes up. I'm holding on to that Nvidia stock that I told you guys about. It's more than doubled since I've had it, and I'm wondering if I should drop that. But when you talk about selling something, the question always is, sell it and buy what? Are you going to buy something that's doing better than that? So I think I'm going to stay where I'm at with that for a while. That's kind of my wild card play. But
Though, if I'm right, it was up something like $20, something weird today.
It was up 20 days. Yeah, it was up. It went up 75 points one day last week, and it went up.
Right,
It also went down $10 yesterday, about 10.
right.
But again, I got in at 170, and it's almost 400 now. So I'm not complaining about anything.
Hey, Dode, I want to share that strategy or stock philosophy because a lot of people ask me about that. Like, when should they get out? When the stock is going up, and there's no right or wrong. But the one theory is, once it goes up, take out what you put in, and then you just playing with house money. Cash out and take out. That's one theory.
That sounds like your uncle at the family reunion.
I know. I mean, but in a way, don't it make sense? Don't take out what you make. Say you put 2,000, but how? Let me finish. Say you put 2,000 in, and it went to 10,000, and you just take out the 2,000, let the 8,000 ride. That's what I'm saying. One philosophy is take what you made out, and then you playing with house money. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's one theory.
Oh, that's definitely, and I'm joking about it, but if that's what you're comfortable with, that's what you do. But I mean, technically speaking, I would say you pick a stock for several reasons, and if those reasons change, then you may decide to sell. Because I'm not talking about buying and selling stock. I'm talking about buying a good stock and holding on as long as it meets what you bought the stock for. I mean,
right. And I agree with you, Doug. Like I said, like I started, I'm just saying this is not a right or wrong philosophy, but it is one philosophy, one strategy that people have done.
But
The other one is, and this is one that I sort of use, though, because like you said, if you take it out, then what do you do with the money? So I've kind of, and it worked both ways for me, to be honest. So I can't say it's the foolproof, but my thing is, if the stock is going up and going up, and unless I need it, like for something that I actually need the cash or something for, I just leave it in there because what am I going? Like you said, I'm gonna take it out of there and put it where in a savings account or in another stock.
Yeah,
So,
but those are all touchy-feely reasons, and I'm an accountant,
right,
analytical type, and if it's meeting your fundamentals as far as its growth, what it's doing, its management teams, then there's no reason to sell at that point. That's just how I look at it. You can find reasons to sell, and you can because you got your money out or because you got something to do with it, but those are all subjective. I'm more of an objective person. If it's still doing what I expected to do, the reasons I bought it are technically based, and as long as it's meeting those, I'm going to hold that stock.
but once again, that's your personal preference.
No question. And
I got it, and it makes sense. But like I said, but everybody have their reasons, and nobody's right or wrong. Is what people feel they can live with and sleep with at the end of the day. But
you should have a good reason when you sell, and it should be because
agreed. You should have a strategy.
Exactly. It should be because something's changed.
Right. No question about that, Dope. So let's get into the cryptocurrency, Dope. Okay, so a lot of people have been asking about the cryptocurrency market, the way it's been just so volatile. Like, so last week, the Bitcoin was down by about 400 and some odd dollars. This week is up by about $425. It's up 16%. And people are asking me, and like we said before, it's so highly speculative. And on this one, once again, there's no Swami or somebody who has the genie in the bottle telling them what to do. It's what we said is speculative, and you should be having money in there that you don't need. But that's just the type of currency that this is. It could come back and it might not come back. But like I said, but the Bitcoin is up 16%. The whole market is up 21 billion. Now, the Dogecoin and the Shiba Inu, man, those are meme coins. Those meme coins, they're not doing nothing. They've been holding flat for it's been about what 3-4 weeks though.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on there, and don't know what other now the tether, which is stable coin, which is tied to the dollar, that just holds, but the volume goes up. I don't show that because that's not the matrix we have on this, but that's how you sort of follow that. And right now the dollar has just been, actually the dollar was going down. It was going up at one time, but now the dollar's starting to go the other way. It's kind of flat. That's what that shows us. So, like we said, hey, it's all about the long play when it comes to cryptocurrency, especially if you're already in. No sense in getting out and realizing the loss. But
well, and that's something we didn't talk about when we talked about when to buy and sell. That's another consideration, though. You have to look at your tax situation. And
yes,
the good thing about crypto is that you can sell it and you can buy it. You can sell it, take the loss, because you may need that loss to offset a gain you have somewhere else, and then you can buy it right back. But you can't do that with stocks because you have to wait. If you sell something at a loss, you have to wait 30 days before you can buy it again, or you can't recognize that loss. Okay. So that's another consideration that plays into whether you buy or sell, because you might want to wait till you get past the 1 year threshold if you're selling at a gain, because that lowers your tax rate. The top rate for capital gains is 20%, which may be lower than your marginal rate. And so again, that's we could have a whole show on when to sell. So I don't want to just brush through it real quick and just say, oh, you do this. There's a lot of considerations you got to take into effect. And with crypto, if it's at a loss, you might want to sell to recognize the gain and then just buy it right back.
Right. And it depends on when you got it, because if you just got it, you got to hold at least 12 months so you don't be hit with short-term capital gains.
No, if it's a loss.
I mean, I'm not short gain, hit with your ordinary marginal tax rate. Sorry, though, didn't mean to say.
Yeah, but if it's a loss, it don't matter. So you
got you. Good point.
As a loss, go ahead and do it.
Right, because it's a loss. My bad. But this is the thing, though. What we are saying, just like we just talked about the stock market with other stocks and things like that. The key is to have an entry strategy and a departure strategy. Exit. Excuse me. That's what I'm looking for. Same thing with buying and selling dope. Like you said, we can have a whole show on buying and selling, and we can talk about it generically, but not specifically stocks. And we might need to do that, though.
Yeah.
Because there's so many factors involved in buying and selling, and we don't want to get in too deep in that today. But we did want to at least make that point about the stock market and cryptocurrency. So, let's get into our topic for today, which is, we talked about reward points, and the name of our title of the show today is, does it pay to use reward cards? And what you think, Doe?
Yeah, we've talked about it, and I've told you guys how I probably make over $2,000 in reward cards every year. And man, that's a couple $100. I mean, obviously it doesn't change my life, but I keep track of pennies, and so I definitely keep track of dollars. And when you start talking a couple grand, and all I got to do is make sure I use the right card in certain places, because I have a 3% card that I use for most everything. Then I have a 5% card at Amazon and Whole Foods, and then I have a Costco card that I use for Costco gas and buying things at Costco. I think it's 4% on gas, and you kind of get two rewards if you're an executive member at Costco. You get two different rewards. So I use cards, and I do always I pay it off as soon as the bill comes through. That's the other side of it. And as Bob said, we've talked about this before. we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about reward cards in particular. And this hit us because this is another situation where if you are financially astute, you can make money. You can create a situation where every time you use your card, somebody is paying you. And we're going to talk a little bit later how it's included in the price of products. If a guy has a store and accepts credit cards, he has to pay typically around 3% to the banks, 3% in interchange fees for using that credit card. So it's in the price. So you almost, it behooves you to use the credit card to get something out of that transaction. And this is another, in this capitalistic society we live in, it's another situation where the rich get richer because they use credit cards. They use them a lot because they spend a lot. They make efforts to use credit cards in every situation that they can. And then you have the poor who use credit cards, carry debt, and don't really get the full advantage of the reward cards. It ends up costing them money as opposed to putting money in their pocket. And in this system, the banks, it's bad enough that people overuse credit cards for various reasons, to keep up, to be hip, to stay current, all kind of bad reasons. But then you throw in the reward issue, and now in people's minds, they're thinking, well, I use the card, I get rewards. But that's not a
Right.
that's not a reason to use a credit card. The rewards are typically between 1% and 5%. And if you're carrying debt, it can be from 18 to 30%. So it's not a winning proposition. And that's what we're going to discuss tonight.
So before I go any further, our good friend James Alexander, because we were talking about stocks, he just said, just speaking as a novice, what is a good reason? Remember you were saying if you had a good reason, or did I say that? One of us must have said it. He said, what is a good reason? He was talking about the stocks again. When we were
A good
talking about,
reason to sell or to buy, or what?
either one. Remember you were talking about, if you were going to buy or sell, you said you should have a good reason why.
Well, yeah. If the fundamentals change, if their growth slows down, if their management team changes, if their projections of earnings aren't meeting what you thought they would be. A lot of times I'll look at what the analyst reports say, like in my portfolio for the money I play with in Fidelity, it lists the analyst consensus on that stock. For example, Microsoft, the consensus is very bullish. But Tesla, the consensus is very bearish. But I own both of those because I think Tesla makes a great automobile, and I think they're getting the bugs out of their manufacturing system, and I think things are going toward electric cars, and so that's why I stay in, even though it's extremely volatile, and they started discounting and stuff like that. So the reason I would sell that, if that changes, if I think they aren't a good company anymore, or if their earnings start to crater, then I would sell. Same with Microsoft. Microsoft is a big, strong, powerful company. It's on the forefront of artificial intelligence, and it's a leader in that field. And if for some reason that was to change, then I would consider selling that. But those are reasons you change. If something fundamentally is different than the reason you bought it in the first place, then it may be time to get out.
So I hope that answers your question, James, because that makes a lot of sense, though. I want to talk about, about these reward cards. About 90% of all credit card spending is on reward cards, and if you play the game right and maximize your rewards, you can save at least a few $100s every year. I want to show a particular chart here. It's interesting, though, the banks, the money they're making off of these these cards. So in 2019, in return for all the spending on the type of credit cards, the largest U.S. banks paid out nearly 35 billion in rewards. But where is that money coming from? They paid out 35 billion in rewards, but in that same year, banks reported that from the three main revenues, they got 9.9 billion in fees, 89.7 billion in interest charges, and 41.3 billion in interchange fees. Interchange fees is when you go to use the card, is what they actually charge the retailers. Normally, it's an average of 3%. That's on the low side. That's an actual total of $140 billion that they make for total revenue from credit cards in a year. And that was just, the past survey statistics as of 2019. So just think what it's going to be now, 4 years later. And half of that $70 billion that they make is from rewards cards. It's amazing, though, the amount of money they're making. So in this, go ahead.
And that fees, that includes annual fees, over credit fees, late fees. So that's pretty substantial in and of itself, just the fees.
And these are the fees.
Oh, cool.
Like you said, annual. And then a lot of people, like the high FICO score people, the high people who really spend a lot, they travel a lot and they hit with a lot of foreign transaction fees. And then the people with the lower scores are mostly hit with the late fees and the over the limit fees. And that makes up that amount of money I was telling you about of, 9 billion in just fees and then the interest, though. I mean, it's phenomenal. But in the study that they did as of 2019, it concluded that reward card system creates an estimated annual redistribution of more than $15 billion from less to more educated, poor to richer, and higher to low minority areas. Now that's widening the existing disparity. The wealth gap they talk about. This is the kind of thing that leads toward it. That means that $15 billion that could have been distributed in a different way to create a greater equality. That's the capitalistic system that we live in, though.
Yeah, and the sad part is ignorance that people don't know. Like, for example, one of the I pay fees on two cards, and one is my hotel card, and I pay $450 a year. And you might go, why the heck would you ever pay $450 for a card? Well, I use the benefits that are in that card, and they include I get $250 a year in seat upgrades. And ex-basketball player, I'm kind of tall, not as tall as Bob, but I'm tall. Always pay for an upgraded seat whenever I fly. And so I use that $250 is going for the year already. I've already used it up. So that's $250. Then I get one night in a Hilton free a year. And I usually use that in either DC, where rooms are like $200-300 a night, or I use it in New York, where rooms are $300-400 a night. And then I get a Priority Club membership at the airport, which if I'm ever, hungover, if I'm laid over at an airport and I have time, I'll use the airport lounge. So I spend $450, but I get $450 in value, and that doesn't include the 9 times. It's for every dollar I spend, I get 9 times that in Hilton points. And so you really have to sit down and do an analysis when you pay a fee to make sure you're getting the value from that fee. And that's key to do if you get a rewards card. But as Bob mentioned, that this low FICO score versus the high FICO score people, and it's true, people with high FICO scores typically spend a lot more money, and so they reap the benefits of those cards. But sadly, people with low FICO scores also use reward cards, and they end up paying heavy interest payments, and all that money goes to the bank. And we can say the banks encourage it. They would never say that they do, but it's pretty obvious that they do. And so it's basically the people with low FICO scores are subsidizing the people with high FICO scores. If they weren't accumulating those huge interest payments on those reward cards, then there's no way they would be offering the rewards to the high income people. Now, the high income people, they earn their rewards because, as I said before, they use the cards a lot. And so they crank up those interchange fees. And this kind of sums up the situation. On average, after accounting for rewards paid to households by banks, the lowest income household, that's 20,000 or less, they pay $21 on average.
Wow.
The highest income households, that's 150 and above, receive an average of 750. And so the system's broke. And
this is reward cards.
Yeah, just reward card. Now, again, I don't want anyone to feel I'm picking on them. If you're using a credit card because of your situation, you lost your job, you had an emergency, we're not talking to you. That your situation is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the use of credit cards for what's that old saying about buying things spending money you don't have to buy things you don't need to impress people who don't care.
God damn. I don't know if you can say that twice, man.
I could. And
no, say it again. That's a good one.
It's people spending money they don't have,
right?
Things they don't need to impress people who could care less what they have.
That's good. That's good, though.
That's what we're talking about when we talk about overusing credit cards and carrying debt on things that you don't really need. So I hope not to offend anyone who is in a situation where they have to be in debt because of their situation. This isn't you.
But we're not talking about those people because we know there's circumstances beyond their control.
Exactly.
But I don't think that's most of the people, though. Do you?
No, I definitely don't. But there are some people in that situation. I know.
I agree, but I don't think that's the majority of the people. And we haven't did no survey on that because I just know some of the people I know, though. And I look at the things they spend money on and how they always talking about, don't have enough for the kids' college and they always traveling, So I see those people, and this the point is we're not trying to victimize the victims so we just want to make that clear. So, now, this ecosystem that they have created with these credit cards is addictive. Yeah. Now, reward cards can be highly addictive. Now, if credit cards is like marijuana, this is my example, though, the reward cards are like crack. Because banks entice people to spend more money by offering reward cards. Rich people make banks money by spending more. By spending more and generating fees, right? Whereas poor consumers make banks money by spending even more and then also paying interest rates, late fees, and over the limit fees. Now, when it comes to credit cards, it's not whether you can afford the payment, it's whether you can afford the item you're buying. That's the dodism here. Let me say it again. When it comes to credit card, it's not whether you can afford the payment, it's whether you can afford the item that you're buying. Now, the average credit card balance a few years ago was up to $6,000. The average credit card balance on a person's credit card. So today, it's up to $10,000, the average amount. And see, the bank's goal is for you to spend. They want you to pay the interest, generate late fees, and it's people say, "Man, wait a minute! I thought the bank's supposed to be on our side." The capitalistic society is all about making a dollar, and that's why we having the show today We talked about reward cards before, but we just want to be clear and dig down a little bit deeper and talk more about reward cards, because all reward cards are not created equal, okay? And all consumers are not created equal. If you have bad habits, if you have bad spending habits, if you are terrible with responsibility and accountability, you need to really think about how you use not just reward cards, but credit cards in general. So the average person, though, low credit score people, they average a 26% debt to income ratio. That's your debt to the income. Now, the sensible rate average should be about 20%. So that's 6% above what you're spending. So we want y'all to just be more conscious. And like we say, you don't know what you don't know. So we're trying to educate you, because there's so many, how can I say it, hidden things that pop up on us, and we usually get so far in the hole, and then we realize we've been duped, and it's too, depressing to get out of that hole. But you can.
Yeah, the system's definitely rigged for the rich folks. We've talked about that, from the way the tax system works to this situation here. But it's key that you pay attention to the APR. That's the interest rate that the credit card is charging, because the average interest rate for credit cards now is 21%. And that's the highest it's been in like 3 decades. The APR range for reward cards is between 17 and 30%. So, I mean, the question might be, should you use a reward card? Well, if you're in debt, okay, and you're deciding what kind of credit card you should get, interest rate should be what drives you toward a particular credit card. You should be looking to pay the lowest interest rate that you can, because that's the cost of borrowing money, and you need that to be as low as you can. When you're talking about an 18% interest rate versus if you can get a 12% interest rate, that's a huge difference. That's you're cutting 50% of the interest rate off by getting 12% instead of 18. So you have to look at that should be your driving force. Now, if the reward card has the same interest rate as a regular credit card, then of course use the reward card. I mean, that's and try to get points, and be diligent about getting points where you can. I mean, it's available, and you just don't want to run yourself into debt. Any way you can add to your bottom line, you can do it. And people might think, well, dope counts pennies. Yes, I do. And I worry about which credit card I use where. I make sure I use a credit card, because that's adding money to my bottom line, and it's not requiring any effort on my part other than flashing the credit card to make a payment.
And remember, if you're paying with cash, and the people who are using the reward points, you actually are funding the reward points that they're receiving. How? Because they are actually charging the retailers 3%, which is the interchange fee. And trust me, the vendors, the retailers, are making that cost. They're not just eating that cost at 3%. They put it back into the price of the goods that you buy. So in a way, if you don't use the reward points, you're actually funding for the people that do. But the thing is, we got to make this point. You got to be responsible, because how it works, you pay off the reward card, the credit card, every month. Because if you pay interest, like those say, if your interest rate is 19%, and you get a reward cash back of 1%, you actually paying 18%. So just want to make that point. Now, I just want to make another point, that reward points are not only the advantage of having your credit card. Now you should be able to take advantage of all the perks, like Doug say. That's the name of the game. All the perks for a reward card are great, and for a credit card is great. However, it's not the only advantage why you have credit cards or reward cards. One of the biggest benefits of having a credit card or rewards card is the purchasing power, the power to be able to have credit, to be able to have access to should you need it in an emergency and you don't have the money sitting there in a savings account. And that's the key, because remember, it's not your money, but the purchasing power. That's what credit is all about. That's what credit is all about. A lot of people have great credit limits on their credit card because that's the purchasing power. And then it's all about also the number two great advantage of just having a credit card of an additional reward points is the leveraging of your debt, of leveraging of debt. It has great advantages. And some people leverage their debt with a credit card to start their business and get it going and pay off the credit card. And also another great advantage of it than just the purchasing power and leveraging the debt is you get to improve your credit score. And that's why we always say use the credit card, your rewards cards, and not your debit card.
Yeah, and you might get to thinking, or you can feel this way, that credit cards are just too dangerous to even use. But in the financial mainstream of the day, you have to have a credit card. I mean, if you want to Uber, if you want to buy something online, it's you want to rent a car, you book a hotel, you have to have a credit card. And if you feel you can't control your spending, then you might want to consider a secured credit card, in which case you put the money in like a savings account, and you can have a credit card up to that limit to, one, control your spending, but at the same time, that will allow you to build your credit score so you can get a higher credit score, because that's another one of those things where the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. The higher your credit score, the lower interest rate you pay. The more money you have available, the easier it is to borrow when you have a high credit score. When your credit score is low, the more it costs you to borrow, the chances of getting turned down are higher. You may need the money and can't get it. And so you have to be responsible when it comes to credit card. And a secured credit card is one option to make sure you control your spending.
So, Doug, I had this question asked me, how many credit cards should you have?
And that's a tough one, because
It's tricky, isn't it?
and it depends on, like, I have a bunch. Like I said, I have a hotel credit card, an airline credit card. I have one for Amazon and Whole Foods. I have one for everything else. And some credit cards I have just because you get announcements of sales, and you get special little perks and things of that sort. And so, but responsibly, if you shouldn't have credit cards that do the same thing that other ones do, unless you need them. Now, if you can responsibly handle it, then it's not really a question. You have as many as you need, you have as many as you want. But if you have trouble managing debt, you should probably decrease the number of credit cards you have if they are a temptation for you, or if you can't control your spending. You have to find a way to get your spending under control, and you can do that by not having access to the credit card. But as we said before, you need the credit cards in order to build your credit history and your credit score up to a reasonable point. So how many should you have? It's a tough question to ask, because everybody's situation is different.
Well, so, and you're right, because traditionally, the strategy was, oh, you just have one or two credit cards, right? But now, because of these reward points, and it's cash back, I don't know, do you use both the cash back and the points? Or is there any advantage between using the cash back or the points?
Well, see, it's like for Amazon, the Chase credit card there, the one that pays the 5%. They try to be tricky, you can use it to buy stuff. But I'm so cheap, I make them give me cash because I would never buy something with reward points because then you don't get reward points for buying it with reward points. So
Right.
I make them give me cash. It goes into my checking account. Costco gives me cash. My Fidelity card gives me cash. I much prefer cash, and then I can continue to use my credit card and accumulate points.
Well, though, being a DC guy, I like to quote the Godfather Go-Go, MasterCard, Visa, American Express. Ain't got nothing against those credit cards, but the cash is the best. I need the money. So that was been asked to me too, though, about the points versus the cash. Another point I'd like to make you all about if you are responsible and you use the reward points and cash back on several credit cards, you need to be careful because if you got a bunch of credit cards out there and you're not using them, say they just at a zero balance, it's not a major hit on your score, but now they track you. You got to at least use the credit card every 6 months. And it doesn't matter. It could be on a pack of gum because they don't track what you spend it on, but they look at the activity. So be careful by having a lot of credit cards out there with zero balance and you don't use them. And it's not a major hit, but it can lower your score. Then the flip side is if you have those cards and you feel you got too many, be careful when you close a credit card out because that's your history. And your score is also based on the history of how long you had a card. So you don't want to close out a card that you had like for 15 to 20 years. And then the other thing you got to be careful is if you close out the credit card, it starts lowering your utilization rate. And that is, your balance against the outstanding limit. And so say you had 4 cards and the total utilization rate was, say, $10,000. And you close out one of the cards that had a $5,000 limit, and now it drops down to 5,000, the utilization rate. And it's 30% of that versus 30% of if you had $10,000 credit limit. So you got to be careful with those credit cards and reward cards. Just want to make that point.
And Bob, and just remember a couple little hints. Make sure you set up automatic payments on your credit cards for at least the minimum balance so you don't get hit with a late fee. So, but I mean, ideally, you want to pay it off before the due date, but make sure you have that automatic payment so you don't get hit with a non-payment fee. You need to make sure you do that and make sure you have alerts set up on all your credit cards so you get either an email or a text whenever that credit card is used. And like I've told you before, I have alerts if my credit card is used, if it's used internationally, if it's used and I'm not present, I get emails. And again, like travel cards, if you go overseas, some cards charge you a foreign transaction fees, some cards don't. Make sure you know what your benefits are. And when you go overseas, make sure you're using the card that doesn't charge foreign transaction fees, because that could be 3 to 5%. And again, that just increases money to the bank and takes money out of your pocket. So make sure you pay attention to those things.
Garnett asked the question, should you use the checks the credit card companies send you?
No, those are considered cash advances, and they charge interest from the day you use them. That's considered a cash advance, and they usually charge a fee. And I think I told Bob this. When my kids were going to college, and there was a time I had 2 kids in college and 2 kids in private high school, and I would use balance transfers. And while I was waiting for a bonus check or waiting to sell some stock, so I did use balance transfer, and I would pay the 3% fee to get 8 months of no interest. And then by that time, I'd either get a bonus check or I'd sell some stocks in order to pay the bill. Never paid a penny interest, but I did pay some fees to do that. I didn't want to draw into my take money out of a any savings accounts to pay for college. I just want to do it with stocks and bonuses. But so you can use those. Just be aware of what the charges are, because they start charging you if it's not a promotional fee. They start charging you interest from the day you cash that check.
Right.
And so just be aware of what you're getting into if you do that.
Hey, dope. Joe Biden really needs you on the debt limit committee, man. God dang, you know how to squeeze a penny. That's what it's, and that's what this show is all about, you all. Just having info so that you don't, for one, don't get got. So the system, don't, take more money out your pocket. And we also want you to be ahead of the game and to make money off the system. Albert Einstein said the seventh wonder of the world is interest. He says it's interest. He said those who don't understand it pay it, and those who understand it make it.
That's for sure.
So dope. Let's go to the summary and takeaways, because we talked about a lot today, and this recap it in case you can't remember half the things we talked about. We hit a lot of things, but here we go. And I'll start it off, dope. First and foremost, avoid credit card debt. That is like an albatross around your neck. It will weigh you down. Like me and Dope say, we do understand that there are circumstances that prohibit you from, not being able to, keep that debt low. But the goal is always to avoid debt, pay those credit cards off at the end of every month, and be aware of the billing cycle. Some people think it's the 30th of each month, but read the truth in lending disclosure, because some of them is the 28th, and you think you're, beating the clock, but you need to look at the truth in lending disclosures to keep you from having to pay more debt than you have to.
Yeah, and rewards cards should add to your bottom line, and that's how they should work. They should be a reward. It shouldn't be a drain on you. And so if you're carrying debt and paying interest, then reward cards not helping you. Again, focus on a lower interest rate. Get the lowest interest rate you can if you're carrying debt, and forget about the rewards. But they should add to your bottom line, and make sure you're making money on reward cards and not paying the banks.
And credit cards are necessary, but must be used responsibly. We can't say that enough, though. Can't say it enough. It's all about accountability and responsibility when it comes to managing your finances. What gets people in a lot of binds is definitely credit card. It's up to over $1 trillion now in credit card debt, and that's the number one killer to people's credit scores. So be responsible. They're necessary. You can't get a hotel room without one, and I hope you understand why. It's because you pay cash and then you go and wreck the room. They have no other way to recuperate that money. Or if you have a car, then the insurance, they have a way to get their money. That's why rental cars and hotels and all of those are necessary for a credit card, even if you got the cash. So be responsible.
Yeah, and look at credit card for what it is. You're borrowing money. It's not your money. So make sure you understand that when you buy something, you are borrowing money. And if you don't pay it off for the billing cycle, they charge you for borrowing that money, and they charge you steeply for borrowing that money. And so handle it like it's cash. If you don't have the cash to pay for something, you can't afford it. It's that simple.
Hey, dope. You know why credit cards are like nacho cheese? Because it's not your cheese. It's not your money. I'm just trying to say. I'm just saying, though. So, though, we got a question here from James Alexander. When making a payment, I guess amount, if not paying the balance in full and only paying the minimum due, then pay the minimum plus the interest charged that month?
Well, pay as much as you can. That's
That's the bottom line, right?
that's always the answer. Whatever you owe, pay as much as you can, as fast as you can. You don't have if you're carrying debt, you don't have to wait until the due date to make a payment if you have the money, because the way it's handled, the credit is based on your average balance, and so the sooner you make a payment, the better. And if you're paying it off in full, in an ideal situation, you want to wait until as close to the pay date as possible. So ideally, you have your money somewhere drawing interest. So you make interest as long as you can before you make the payment. But if you owe, make the payment as soon as you can for as much as you can to get the amount you owe down.
So, but let me make sure I got what he's saying right. If not paying the balance in full and only paying the minimum due, question mark, then pay the minimum plus the interest charged that month?
Yeah, I think he's saying should you just pay the minimum and the interest charge for the month? I would pay as much as I can. If you can pay the minimum and the interest charge, do that, but do it as soon as you can and pay as much as you can. The goal is always to pay debt down, especially that 18 to 30% interest rate. Pay it down as fast as you can.
And Doug, the other the other thing that people don't know, when you look on the statement, you have the statement balance and the current balance.
Mm-hmm.
The statement balance is usually the amount that you owe from the billing period before.
Right.
And you could pay that off. That's not the full amount. For instance, say the current balance is $5,000, but your statement balance is $3,000. If you pay the $3,000, you don't pay any interest on the $3,000 because the billing cycle that you had on the $2,000 was on the next cycle, and it's in the next month pay period. So that's another way you can sort of get ahead. But I would make that a practice. But if you pay the statement balance, you don't have to pay the interest.
And Bob, and where they get you is the minute you don't pay the full amount, they go back and charge you for that average daily balance.
Right.
How much you've owed that whole billing cycle. So it behooves you to pay that credit card bill off every month.
That's the bottom line. So with that, Dope, got to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, roll call, Garnett, thank you. My sister Linda and my lovely sister Gloria. Now, my sister Nolia tells me she usually is on here, but I haven't seen it. But some tells me she's on here. So I'm going to say, Nolia, hello, my lovely sister. I don't see you on the roll call, but I'm going to shout out to you because you're telling me you've been out there. But I know one time you were on another show, past show, and you thought it was the current show. And as I said today, you all, this is June.
Telling on your sister like that. What kind of brother are you?
That's what baby brothers do.
That's jive.
Jive turkey. Now that's taking us back. Joanne Skinner and Rodney L. Madison Sr., thenoteexperience.com. Go out there on this site, you all. I'm telling you, it's another alternative investment in mortgage notes, how to hold mortgage notes and use them to your advantage. James Alexander, thank you for your wonderful questions. Appreciate you. And we're going to be here. Tune in next week, 8 p.m., which would be June the 8th at 8 p.m., the FITT Show. Financial information for today and tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of the week.